right, we got an interesting person here. Carl Pei, I got to give a quick background. At Forbes, we do the 30 under 30 list, and the thing about Carl Pei is we have, of course, the U.S. list, which we've been doing for 5 years. This year, we also launched the European list and the 30 under 30 Asia. And Carl, we were fighting. The three groups were fighting over you because Carl is you were brought up in Stockholm. You're born in China, now back in China, but educated and brought up in Stockholm. But you have a lot of action here in the U.S. So we couldn't even figure out where to put you. So this is a true global CEO. Who here? First thing, everyone here has a smartphone. Who here has a OnePlus? Who here has heard of OnePlus before today? All right, about right. Because the U.S. If you're in India or you're in Europe or you're in China, you know OnePlus. You're just making inroads here in the States. Let's talk about OnePlus and this is a 2-3-year-old company.
2.5.
2.5 years, and you're already making big inroads in the smartphone market. So first of all, the perception is the action is software. The hardware is the commodity. Software is where you do. You jump in big time into hardware. Why does a young guy want to start a hardware company? Where did that idea come from?
Personally, I think everything is a commodity. Before, when it was really difficult to make software, but over time, everyone learned how to make software as well. Hardware is a commodity. Sneakers are a commodity, but you still have really strong brands like Nike. I believe that the true value comes when you fuse hardware and software together. As your hardware scales, your software will become more and more valuable as well.
Yep. But the idea of going, you're going up against Apple, Samsung, HTC. So where'd that idea come from? That hey, let's go into one of the most competitive with some of the strongest companies in the world. I mean, you're talking about three of the most quote unquote innovative companies in the world. I mean, Apple probably being considered the most innovative company in the world, and Samsung right there as well.
I think it's two things. One is the product itself. So we started this company in late 2013, and the funny story is a lot of our founding members, we sat around a table and we were all using iPhones. We started asking each other, hey, why is no one using an Android smartphone? Android has more users than iPhone. And we figured that within the Android manufacturers back then, no one made a product as good as the iPhone. So we said, hey, if we make an Android phone that's as good as the iPhone, maybe that's a good opportunity. So number one, product. Number two, business model. We see that in large parts of Asia, like in India or in China, more and more people are buying smartphones via the internet. So in India, 35% of people are today buying smartphones online. In China, the figure is 25%. But in the rest of the world, it's still lagging behind. I think in the States, it's like 1 or 2%. So it's a huge opportunity to go direct to consumer globally, in the States as well, in Europe as well.
Yep. We were talking backstage, and you were talking about how your perception is that U.S. carriers rip off U.S. consumers in terms of, I was surprised to hear that. I'm sure a lot of people, because most of us get our phones for free or for very little. So how am I getting ripped off when basically Verizon's giving me a free phone or a very cheap phone?
So there's this data that 64% of consumers in the States who are on a carrier contract do not know that they're still paying for their phone in addition to their phone bill. When the majority of people don't know what they're actually paying for, I think that constitutes as being ripped off.
So you're talking about transparency.
Right. So carriers give you a very low starting price, but they make you pay for your phone every month. And I think that's the model that we're trying to change.
Well, they make you pay for it whether you know it or not. They're just factoring it in.
And that's the problem.
So what you're saying is you buy direct, then you can kind of shop around just for a pure plan versus be tethered based on the phone.
You pay up front, you own the phone, you can do whatever you want with it. You can insert 2 SIM cards. You can use one for data, one for voice, or one when you're traveling.
Yep. You guys have, again, grown so fast, so quickly. It's good news and bad news, right? I mean, the good part is there's lots of demand. Anybody who's starting, we have a ton of tech entrepreneurs out here. Anybody would love, that's a great problem to have. We have too much demand. The bad part is, you guys screwed up delivery twice, your first two, and you've admitted to this. So what were the lessons you took out of that, and how did you experience that, and what was the lesson out of that?
I think the lesson is to be upfront. So the second time was when we had this our second generation flagship, the OnePlus 2. It was really hyped up. We did the world's first virtual reality launch for it, and I think at one point we had over 5 million people in the reservation list. And then we delayed the launch by 1 month.
Right.
And I think we did a really bad thing in terms of PR. Like, our PR people were not happy about it. But basically, I went onto our forums and I wrote this long letter saying we messed up the launch. And the product got shipped a month after. And it's actually funny. So John Scully visited our office a while after that, and he said, "Hey, I read the thing you wrote, and I really like the way how you're transparent with your community."
Right, right. And so what was your take on that? So your PR folks were mad. You admitted that you made a mistake. What did people forgive you? I mean, you guys seem to run a very open source kind of You have a very open relationship with your consumers. I was reading on your blog posts. I mean, you guys try a lot of stuff. A lot of stuff works. A lot of stuff doesn't. I mean, you seem to have this conversation and be very, very, very open about when you screw up. How does that affect your relationship with your customers?
From the beginning, our thought with our customers was to make them feel like they're starting this company together with us. So before we even had a product, we had an online community where we would discuss. We said, "Hey, we're going to make the best smartphone. How do we do it? Let's do it together." So every week we had a new topic. What is the best camera? What is the best memory? What is the best battery size? Whatever, right? And
You crowdsourced your product.
kind of, you cannot do everything your user says. So whenever we chose
The user says, "I want a free phone. That's great tomorrow."
course.
Right?
the highest spec, the lowest price.
Correct.
You cannot do everything your user says. But every week when we finalized one of our product decisions, we would also write a very long kind of a technical explanation to why we did something we did. And we had this example from the OnePlus One where we used one of the state-of-the-art Snapdragon Qualcomm chips, but our users were really unhappy about it because they said, "Hey, in 2 months there's going to be this new chip called the 801. Why don't you use this instead?" So we had this internal discussion, and in the end we actually switched to the 801, and it turned out to be a much better decision because this chip was much better than the 800.
How do you translate? You do have these hardcore fans, but yet, especially here in the States, you're just starting to get penetration. How do you translate kind of that hardcore fandom into a large audience, which is not quite as geeky about what's going on inside that phone?
So that's the discussion we had like a year ago. How do we go from early adopters to early majority? But over the past year, we've learned that it's too premature for us to even try that. We're probably way in the beginning of the diffusion curve. We're at innovators. So I think the best way for us when we don't have a large marketing budget is to focus on NPS and recommendation.
Yep.
Make your core users really glad that they chose you, make them really satisfied, and rely on them to kind of help you spread the word.
I think there's a good lesson for, again, we have a lot of entrepreneurs here, and there's probably a lot of lessons there. I mean, you're talking, Forbes, we did a story on you guys early, and we talked about your marketing budget. OnePlus's marketing budget, Forbes said was $300, was it?
The first year.
Yeah, the first year. So a $300 marketing budget. You guys got a lot of buzz. You had that. First of all, you had an invitation model.
Right.
Kind of like you had to be invited for the privilege of getting this phone. Tell us about the Smasher phone. Was that a success? And maybe you can tell folks what that was about and whether or not there's a lesson.
So for reference, the $300.
Yes.
We did $300 million in revenue on those $300.
That's good. That's 1 to a million ratio. I think we'll take that. Most people will take that, right?
For Smash the Pass, basically we had a dilemma. Smartphones are getting kind of boring, commoditized, and we have a new product coming out, a new brand. Why should people care about us? And with no money to spend on marketing, you have to break through. So the campaign we had was, look, we're making the best smartphone in the world, and it's half of the price of your iPhone or Samsung. But I didn't want people to choose us because of price. I wanted to show people that even if it cost the same, they would still choose us. So what we did was, we told people to smash their flagship smartphones, so the latest generation Samsung, latest Sony, latest Apple. And if they smash your smartphone and made a YouTube video on it, they could buy our phone for $1. So they would sacrifice the top of the line iPhone to get our phone. And this campaign had 140,000 people apply, and in the end, we chose 100 people. So you could only get our phone after you were chosen. But
That's good. So we have 139,900 people who are not really mad at you.
But the thing is, some people didn't read the rules, so some people started smashing their phones before that. If you go to YouTube, you can see a lot of people smashing it.
Yeah. So it's innovative marketing like that. You get a lot of bang for your buck. I remember reading how you at one point, offered to intern for Samsung if they sent an intern to your, so getting kind of in people's face. You had that. You had a setback. You had that ladies first. You had
Right.
especially in the bro culture of tech. You had a setback where you encouraged women to, be liked and show, and they would get preference. What did you learn from that kind of mistake?
So the starting point was a good starting point. We wanted to, because everyone wanted to buy the phone back then, and it was really hard for us to ship to everyone. And we saw a lot of interest among women, and back then there was a lot of conversation about how do you involve more women in technology. But in the end, the campaign was not well thought out. Basically, people took a selfie, and sometimes the selfies got a little bit not safe for work. So as soon as we saw this, we deleted the entire contest. It was online for 4 hours, but the ramifications were huge. It's a lot of people have been talking about this ever since.
Right. So what's the lesson you take out other than you probably should have had a woman running that campaign, right?
Diversity, right? If you have a more diverse kind of a team, I think we could have avoided a lot of this.
I'm sure. All right, so let's talk about the future. The future of mobile. That you've done an amazing job getting to where you are. A lot of people here are very curious about what their phone is going to look like or how they can profit from the continuing blossoming of the mobile market. First, mobile versus laptop. How soon and how real is the idea that we are just going to we're going to throw away our laptops and produce on our phones?
I think we can see that the smartphone is becoming the dominant computing device. If you look at tablet sales, it's dropping. Laptop sales is dropping. When you find a sweet spot between a tablet and a smartphone, so normally the smartphones are now like 5.5 inches, like your iPhone 6 Plus. You no longer need a tablet. So I think it's already the dominant computing platform.
When you guys are looking ahead, are you thinking, how can we make this so basically people don't need another device? Or is it still going to be a supplement to your laptop or your desktop? And how do you guys think about that?
I think for content creation, your desktop or laptop will still be the dominant kind of device. But for communications, it's a smartphone, and that's not going to change for the next 5 years.
I'm gonna throw out a couple ideas. Maybe we could do a rapid fire here to get an idea of what my smartphone's going to look like, because I can say my smartphone is going to be my communications device, and of course it absolutely is. But why does my battery, when is my battery going to last? So that about 5 o'clock I can't talk to anybody anymore, even with a Mophie. Give us a window into the future, because you live this. When are we going to have smartphones that can last without a Mophie and last an entire day or longer?
So it's actually
please.
It's actually a physical limitation. So the size of your device decides how much battery you have. So the only way of having a device that can last for a very long time is to have a very thick or heavy device.
Yes.
But I think we're seeing a new trend in the industry, and it's fast charging. So you can just plug your phone in for a couple of minutes and use it for a couple of hours. So I think over time, people are going to be less and less worried about the battery life.
It'll be like the Tesla of phones. You just, you don't worry about running out of juice if you can recharge quickly. How big are screens going to get?
I think we've found a sweet spot.
What do you think that is?
For us, it's 5.5 inches. It's just big enough to use with one hand, but also has enough real estate to let you watch movies or do productivity apps.
We see a lot of VR out there, and people talking about VR. How does VR converge with your vision of the future of smartphones?
For us, we've always had a strong community, and we've always communicated transparently. For us, VR allows us to kind of extend this. So when we launched our previous flagship, the OnePlus 2, instead of having a media event where we would be on stage and talk down to the media, because we want to have our fans be on the same level as media. We didn't want our fans to be like second rate. What we did was we made the entire launch event in VR. We had this 6-camera setup in our office. We invited fans to our office, so everyone at a certain point in time put on their VR goggles, which we actually gave away for free to 30,000 of our fans. And they were taken to our office, and they could see fans and me launch the product together. So it was a very democratic kind of a thing. And I was in New York during that time for a press tour, and it was pretty funny. The day after, while I was waiting for a taxi, the guy standing next to me was like, "Hey, you're using the new OnePlus 2, and hey, I saw you yesterday in the VR experience."
That's cool. So let's make a little news. When's the OnePlus 3 coming out, Carl?
No comment. No comment. Soon.
Soon. I read weeks from now. How true is that?
So the date we've set is Q2. It's open to interpretation. We're in Q2 now.
We are in Q2 now, and it ends. What will we see with this? Whenever this comes out in Q2, what will we see in this new device that you're excited about?
So let's put it this way. We've seen what everyone else has made. Everyone else has already released their flagship smartphones for this year, except for Apple. And we're pretty confident that it's going to be one of the most competitive devices on the market.
You mentioned Apple. You had John Sculley come by the office. I mean, how much does the Steve Jobs story and Apple, is that an inspiration? Is that a go? Is that something you put a big target on them, or do you take inspiration from them? I mean, tell us about your kind of you personally and kind of OnePlus versus Apple.
I think there's no OnePlus versus Apple, because today we're so small, and whatever we do internally will impact us much more than what like bigger guys like Apple do. But I do admire the kind of attention to detail that Apple places on their products. As entrepreneurs, I think we should learn the good things from people who are more experienced than us, but not idolize people. I do have a Steve Jobs kind of a doll on my desk, though.
Okay, we're in New Orleans. Is it a voodoo doll, or is it a?
It's just a mini kind of a toy.
Okay, well, we'll assume it's on the shelf, and we look at. Last question. Again, you guys are an incredibly global company. How many countries are you in now?
Over 30 countries.
30 countries. I get why you manufacture in China.
Mm-hmm.
Why you didn't have to base in China? Why was your company based in China?
Originally, we thought that China was going to be the biggest market for us, but today, more than 80% of our users are outside of China, so that's why we're based in China. But over the past few months or years, we've been scaling globally. So we have a pretty big office in India. We have one in London now, and later this year, somewhere in the States as well.
I think after a few more nights like last night, you might be based in New Orleans. So I want to thank you. Congratulations on all your success, and keep up. We look forward to seeing what happens sometime in Q2, weeks away. So thank you.
All right, thanks.